Narcissistic abuse is not a trauma you recover from. It is a psychological further you are thrown into. It is a forge designed for a single purpose: to burn away the person you thought you were, so that the person you were always meant to be can finally emerge. Carl Jung's most profound and dangerous work was not about healing. It was about individuation, the sacred, terrifying, and lifelong process of becoming a whole, integrated, and authentic human being. For most, this is a gradual journey of decades, a slow, gentle unfolding. But Jung observed a brutal exception. For the empath, the individual with profound sensory gifts and a porous psychological boundary, narcissistic abuse acts as a violent catalyst. It is an alchemical furnace. It does not ask for permission. It forces the journey of individuation. This is not healing. This is a complete psychological death and rebirth. And what emerges from that fire, if you survive it, is what Jung considered both the pinnacle of human consciousness and a profound personal tragedy. This is the story of that transformation. This is the final stage of the empath. From the moment the abuse ends, the world offers you a single, comforting, and devastatingly false promise. You will heal. You are given books and therapy, all centered on a single goal: to get back to your old self. But here is the first secret of the forge. The person you were before the abuse is gone forever, and you should be grateful for it. That old self was, in Jungian terms, a persona. It was a mask, a carefully constructed identity built for the world. For the empath, this persona is beautiful. It is the helper, the savior, the good one, the understanding one. It is a mask built from the gold of your own gifts. You genuinely believed that was you. But the narcissist, with an animal instinct for the inauthentic, is drawn to that mask. They are not drawn to your strength. They are drawn to the cracks in your mask. They are drawn to the part of you that needs to be the helper, the part that craves validation for being good. Your old self was not a whole person. It was an identity built on a foundation of external validation. Your sense of self-worth was fatally outsourced. The narcissist's job is to systematically, piece by piece, dismantle that entire identity. They are the unconscious agent of your own soul, sent to destroy the mask that was suffocating you. Jung called this first stage a psychic dissolution. It feels like dying. It feels like you are disintegrating into madness, because the entire identity you presented to the world is being ripped away. You are not meant to recover that person. You are not meant to rebuild the mask. You are meant to transcend them. The goal is not to return to the garden of naive innocence. The goal is to build a fortress of conscious wisdom on its ashes. You are not recovering. You are being reborn. In ancient alchemy, to turn lead into gold, the base material had to be subjected to the prima materia, a state of black, chaotic, decomposing matter. And then it had to be subjected to an intense, unrelenting fire. The narcissist provides both the chaos and the fire. Jung understood this process not as literal, but as psychological. This is the forge, and to survive it, the empath must pass through what can only be described as 3 psychological deaths. This is the part that the competitor's script calls shadow integration. But that term is too clean, too academic. This is a violent, bloody, and necessary ordeal. The first death, the death of the rescuer. The first part of the empath's identity to burn is the most cherished one, the savior. Almost every empath enters the relationship with a hidden and often arrogant assumption. My love can heal them. My compassion is special. If I am just good enough, understanding enough, and loving enough, I can fix this broken person. This is the empath's ego. It is a form of spiritual pride. The forge's first lesson is impotence. The fire forces you to watch in agonizing detail as your love, your compassion, and your goodness are not only ineffective, but are used as fuel for the very darkness you are trying to heal. Your love does not heal them. It enables them. Your compassion does not soften them. It feeds them. You are forced to accept the most painful truth for a helper. You cannot save anyone who is committed to their own destruction. You are powerless. Your identity as the rescuer is nailed to a cross. It must die. It is excruciating. And as you watch it burn, you are stripped of your most prized and comfortable identity, leaving you raw for the next stage, the second death, the death of purity. This is the most critical and most terrifying stage of the initiation. This is where you are forced to meet your own shadow. The empath's goodness is often a defense. By identifying as all good, all light, and all pure, they conveniently project all darkness onto the world. The narcissist, they believe, is all bad. This black and white thinking is a form of psychological infancy. The forge, in its brutal wisdom, will not allow this. The narcissist, Jung observed, acts as a perfect, unflinching mirror for the empath's own disowned shadow. You are forced to see that your giving was actually a form of control, a way to make others need you. You are forced to see that your purity was a mask for your own unlived life, your unexpressed rage, your unowned power. You are forced to see that your victimhood, which you wore as a badge of honor, was also a subtle, passive-aggressive weapon you used to manipulate others. The narcissist, in their manipulations, is simply using the tools that you, the empath, had hidden in your own basement. You just called them by different names. You must confront the fact that you participated in the dynamic. You were not an innocent bystander. You were a dance partner. You were drawn to their darkness because it resonated with a darkness in you that you refused to own. This realization is the death of your purity. It is the death of your self-concept as the good one. It shatters the black and white world you lived in. You are not all light. You have a shadow. And for the first time, you must turn and face it. Most people will do anything to avoid this step. They will remain the victim forever. But the one who is truly on the path to the final stage, the one being forged, stays in the fire. They own their shadow. And in doing so, they take back all the power they had projected onto their abuser. The third death, the death of the need for validation. This is the final stage of the forging. This is psychological rock bottom. The narcissist starves the empath of all validation. They withhold approval, praise, recognition, and even basic human decency. They create a famine of the soul. The empath, who has been externally validating their entire life, begins to psychologically starve. They become a ghost, a shell, begging for a single scrap of kindness. This is the psychic dissolution Jung described. And in this moment, at the absolute bottom of the abyss, you are presented with the final choice. Choice A. Disintegrate completely. Give up. Be destroyed. This is the dissolved empath the competitor's script mentioned. The person who never recovers. The psychic ghost. Choice B. Turn inward. This is the great alchemical turning point. The empath, starved and broken, finally stops looking outward for permission to exist. They stop asking the narcissist, "Am I worthy?" They stop asking their friends, "Am I a good person?" They stop asking the world, "Do I matter?" And with their last breath, they turn their gaze inward and begin, for the first time, to validate themselves. This is a Copernican revolution of the psyche. The empath's center of gravity shifts from the external world to the internal self. They realize they are the source of the love they were begging for. They are the source of the worthiness they were seeking. This is the moment the rescuer, the pure one, and the seeker all die, and the integrated self is born. This is the moment the lead finally, agonizingly, becomes gold. The competitor's script calls this final stage the sovereign empath. It is a beautiful name, but in Jungian psychology, what is truly born is the self, with a capital S. It is the unification of the conscious, the persona, and the unconscious, the shadow. It is the adult, integrated, whole human being. This is not the empath you were. That person was a porous sponge, absorbing every emotion, every projection, every toxicity in the room. That person was a compulsive feeler. The integrated self is a diamond. It is still made of the same essential carbon as the soft, permeable sponge. But the intense pressure of the forge has fundamentally and irreversibly changed its entire molecular structure. It is still an empath. But it is an empath who now possesses what Jung called conscious empathy. This is the crucial difference. Old empathy was a compulsion. It was the inability to stop feeling everyone's pain. It was absorbing without a filter. It was feeling and then believing you had to fix what you felt. Conscious empathy is a capacity, not a compulsion. It is the ability to feel, paired with the profound wisdom to discern. The integrated self can sit with another person's agony and hold space for it, showering it with compassion, but without absorbing it. It can understand why someone is in pain without feeling responsible for rescuing them from it. It can love deeply, more deeply than ever before. But its love is no longer a transaction. It is not given in order to be needed or loved back. It is given freely because the self is already full. The most profound change, however, is that the integrated self becomes psychologically untouchable. This is not because they have built walls. Walls are a sign of the armored empath the competitor's script mentioned, the one who failed the initiation by shutting down their gift. No, the integrated self has no walls. They are more open than ever. They are untouchable because they have achieved total transparency. They have what can only be called archetypal sight. When they interact with another person, they are no longer just interacting with their persona. They are seeing the entire psychological machinery operating beneath the surface. Let's see how this plays out. Scenario 1. The guilt trip. A family member says, "After all I've done for you, you won't do this one thing for me?" The old empath would be instantly flooded with guilt. They would feel like a bad person. They would fold, abandon their own needs, and comply. The integrated self feels no guilt. They see the tactic. They recognize the unconscious manipulation. They see the speaker's own unmet needs and their attempt to manage behavior through shame. The integrated self can say, with genuine compassion but unshakable firmness, "I love you, and I understand this is important to you, but I am not available to do that." They remain centered. Scenario 2. Narcissistic rage. A boss or partner explodes in anger, blaming, projecting, and threatening. The old empath would be terrified. Their nervous system would flood with cortisol. They would enter a fawn response, apologizing, trying to soothe the rage. The integrated self feels no fear. They see the rage for what it is, not a personal attack, but a wounded child's tantrum in an adult body. They see the projection. They see the deep well of impotence that the rage is coming from. They become a calm, unmoving center. They can say, "I see you are incredibly upset, but I will not be spoken to this way. We can talk later when you are calm." And they walk away, their heart rate steady. This is archetypal sight. You no longer see the personal drama. You see the patterns, the wounded child, the shadow projection, the ego's defenses. Because you have faced your own shadow, you are no longer hooked by the shadows of others. Their manipulations have no purchase. Their projections slide right off. You have become a conscious, psychological adult in a world of unconscious actors. This is the part Jung found so dangerous. This is the part no one warns you about when you begin your healing journey. Achieving this level of consciousness comes at a profound and often devastating cost. It is the isolation of consciousness. When you have been through the forge, when you have integrated your shadow and activated this archetypal sight, you can no longer unsee the truth. You can no longer participate in the polite, unconscious games that govern 99% of human interaction. Small talk doesn't just feel boring, it feels false. Social gatherings built on polite lies, veiled competition, and hidden agendas become physically, emotionally, and psychically draining. You watch friends, family, and colleagues operate entirely from their unexamined wounds, their egos, and their projections. And you can no longer pretend you don't see it. The competitor's script calls this the consciousness gap. It is an accurate term. It is the feeling of being an adult in a room full of sleeping children. You love them, but you cannot connect with them on the level you once did. You are speaking a different language. This is where the true danger lies. The social fallout. You will be accused of changing. You will be told you are cold, distant, arrogant, or selfish. And you must understand why. It is not because you have become a bad person It is because you have removed yourself as an unconscious resource. For your entire life, people were unconsciously using you. They used you as a dumping ground for their unprocessed emotions. They used you as a mirror for their own ego. They used you as a reliable source of validation. The integrated self is no longer available for any of that. When you set a boundary, you are not being selfish. You are simply reclaiming your own psychic space. But to the person who was used to dumping their trauma on you, it feels like an aggressive, selfish act. When you refuse to engage in gossip or drama, you are not being arrogant. You are simply refusing to participate in a low-frequency, shadow-based interaction. But to the person who connects through shared negativity, it feels like a judgment. This is the great paradox of the final stage. You have never been more capable of profound, authentic, conscious love. Yet, you will find yourself more alone than ever before. This is the point where the wounded healer, the third type in the competitor's script, gets stuck. They heal just enough to set boundaries, but they are still addicted to being needed. They derive their worth from helping others. The integrated self, the final stage, has transcended this. They do not need to be needed. Their worth is inherent. Your soul no longer craves company. It craves resonance. And resonance at this level of consciousness is vanishingly rare. This is the archetypal loneliness, the loneliness of the function you now serve, the seer, the truth teller, the conscious bridge. You have, in effect, become a stranger in a strange land. This entire journey, the abuse that felt like a curse, the fire of the forge, the 3 psychological deaths, the integration of your own terrifying shadow, and the final, isolating emergence into a new form of consciousness. It was not a series of random tragic events. It was an initiation. It was your soul's forced evolution. The universe, in its brutal and impersonal wisdom, recognized that your soft, porous, naive, empathic nature was not your final form. It was merely the raw material. You were an uncut diamond, and you had to be put under unbearable pressure to reveal the brilliance inside. The narcissist was not your life's great love or your life's great curse. They were the catalyst. They were the dark priest of your initiation. They were the hammer that struck the unformed steel. They were the unconscious, necessary agent of your own painful, beautiful, and inevitable transformation. You did not survive them to go back to who you were. You used them to become the person you were always destined to be. The pain was the tuition. The wisdom is the reward. The initiation is complete. The forge is now cold. The diamond is a fact. You are no longer just an empath. You are an integrated self. You are not a victim. You are not even a survivor. You are a testament. If you recognize yourself in this journey, if you have stood in that alchemical fire and are feeling the person you were burn away, comment below. I am being forged. Your transformation is not a solitary event. It is part of a collective human evolution. Your courage to face the fire gives others permission to do the same. Thank you for watching.